Well, good afternoon to you, Scott Baker.
Mikey, how are you? We're talking about the field note here on Lead Better. This is the edition for Sunday, the 24th of August. And our field note today is entitled Leaders Who Make Fun of Themselves Build Trust and Comfort. Two
Right.
interesting words.
Yeah. I told a story a few conversations back about how I fell in front of my kids and I
Yes, you did. Yeah.
and I didn't have the wherewithal to make it fun. My brain immediately went to the idea of defending myself, trying to think, don't let them know that you're old, right? Even though it didn't
Right.
hurt, I didn't injure myself. It was my son. So I'm
Yeah.
just bringing this up again to be like, this is not
Even if
necessarily
it had
a
hurt,
good thing
you
to
would have
do.
been like, don't wince, don't wince, don't
Yes,
flinch. Yeah.
right. No, there's a lot of disadvantages if that's your chief thing. You don't get the medical attention that you ought to get right away. You're talking yourself out and
Right.
treating
Yeah.
yourself properly. But the real thing I wanted to do was let them know it's okay for me to laugh at myself, right? But my
Yes.
first
Yeah.
thought was, don't feel sorry for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't treat me like I'm fragile, right? Um, and so, how to practice and get this into a routine where it's okay to make fun of myself, right? And here's all the reasons why, right? It does build trust in a way that it's hard to
Mm-hmm.
in any other way, except for the fact that you can do this. So, how do we get into this? How do we?
Well, it's not a true. In fact, I like a field note like this because I love this topic. I know I know you were kind of joking around. It's a little bit self-explanatory, but we all like leaders who are self-deprecating. I think it does take a little bit of skill and deftness on the part of the leader to do it
Sure,
in the right way. And there are some negatives, which we'll talk about it here. So here's a goal for all of us, which is you can get better at how you make fun of yourself. You're also modeling for your kids, for our colleagues, why this is a nice way to work in the world and how to do it and not do it. And beyond the trust that comes and the comfort that comes, I think it's probably the most important reason. It's just fun.
yeah. So, what's going on in the reciprocal nature of people that this actually builds trust, right? Why is it that when I see that you're being self-deprecating, that it makes me trust you more? Why doesn't it just organically make me more suspicious?
Yeah, well, there's just a shared humanity, and there in the studies of humor and jokes, it's amazing how far back and how universal. Like when you fell, pratfalls. This
Yeah,
goes back as long as humans have been able to kind of look at each other. I'm sure that pre-lingual, when somebody was like walking and tripped and landed on their face, the other guys were like, "Ha!" Right? I mean, it was
yes.
just how it went, and so. Things like
It's an
flatulence.
icebreaker.
These are almost universally humorous in all cultures across thousands of
Yeah.
years.
Well,
So
I
now
get
I'm
the I get
not.
the humor fault part.
Yeah,
I'm not sure why it builds trust, right? We've
I.
referenced
It's a shared humanity. It's like,
Blake,
oh,
yeah,
you're not
Blake
taking yourself
Snyder's
too
beat
seriously.
sheet at the beginning of his way of writing a movie. He always puts something where the protagonist is saving a cat or some
Yes, you
version of
mentioned
saving
this. Yeah, a
a cat.
few. Yeah, right.
And so I understand the trust that's built there.
Hmm.
You're trying to show me that this protagonist is taking care of an unimportant detail, except that it brings empathy in such a way.
Hmm.
So there's trust that's built with this character I see on screen because he's treating the unimportant important, right? He's elevating.
Hmm.
So
Right.
that kind of trust is something that I see. Laughing at me doesn't seem to build the same kind of, so I'm not sure why it works, right? So I get the idea that it makes me the butt of the joke and that I'm funny, but I don't necessarily know why the chemistry in your brain would elevate confidence level. Now, on the other hand, if I'm deft at comedy and I come out and I'm not saying anything from the stage to the microphone, there is so much that is communicated in those
Hmm.
20 steps before I get there. And I know an audience can be uh, increase their trust for that person or decrease just based upon the confidence that they walk out there. Like if
Hmm.
I get the idea that this guy might fail, I am worried as an audience member, and I don't want to have that kind of worry. So now it feels kind of cringy, right? For me to have to watch this guy who's not comfortable on stage, and then I feel bad. And then I'm fighting that cringeness by being like, can we all just turn into a mob and boo this guy off
Right.
stage? Because that's better than me being cringeworthy for him, right? Whereas,
Yeah.
so you take a guy like Andy Kaufman, who comes out on stage, and Andy Kaufman's routine, he intentionally tried to make
Pause for a second. 92% of the audience, you'll just have to Google Andy Kaufman because
Okay.
we're,
Yes.
we're older. Yeah, go.
So he comes out on stage and he's intentionally trying to make the audience feel like he doesn't know
Uncomfortable.
what he's doing, right? And so he's
Right.
increasing the cringe on, and the longer
Yep.
he's on stage, he's appealing to the people who understand that he's doing this on purpose. And then my
Yes.
confidence
Right.
in him super grows, right? I have so much trust because I feel like this is the smartest comedian I've ever seen because he knew how to play on my emotions. But it took me a full 2 minutes for me to understand what he was doing with all of us as a
Yeah.
crowd.
Right.
And now that I understand it and 50% of the crowd doesn't understand it still, now I'm in on the joke as we're watching these other 50% of the audience still be in cringe mode, right? So
Yep.
I love that. So that kind of sense of trust, I guess Andy Kaufman's self-deprecation there helped me. But is that, I don't know that that's the kind of psychology that we're trying to make.
No, probably. Yeah, you don't want leaders coming in and trying to make the board members cringe.
Yes.
I have
Hoping
seen
that they're just going to belt out with Mighty Mouse's "Here I Come to Stay."
Yes, right. Now, if we have time, I'll tell you a story where that the lesson of it can work in certain circumstances. But I think what happens, and you're like, well, why does it work? Well, there's a shared humanity part. I'm not taking myself too seriously, so I've kind of got a good sense of where I sit in the universe, and I might be the head of the organization or even the CEO. And I'm also trying to kind of lower the what's the Star Trek reference would be, like the force fields. I want those to come down so communication can get a little easier. And we all feel positive towards leaders who do this.
Yes. Because the best
leaders
leaders understand that status is something that they always need to bring down.
Yes, and not all of them do or are good at it, right?
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan was good at it. Barack Obama was good at it. Donald Trump probably is not very good at it, but neither was Joe Biden. Neither was Kamala Harris. I don't remember them telling a lot of self-deprecating jokes. And the stakes are high when you're kind of trying to position yourself as the commander in chief. Some of them would go on, I think all of them went on Saturday Night Live at one point or another. And we can always tell the one that's on Saturday Night Live who kind of is going with the joke on themselves, they tend to do well. And then the other ones that are on and they're kind of like, you can just see it in their eyes, they're resisting it. And we just go, you think too much of yourself, however we perceive that. So the one thing that the field note kind of brings out is that and I think I poke fun at myself with my family. I do it, I think, with our team, and there'll be some things that are legitimate or easy. In fact, in our Field Note Lead Better broadcast for yesterday, I kind of made a joke about how I was in a dialogue group, and just to kind of make it so that I wasn't talking too much.
Yeah.
Because that's a problem.
Right.
That I was going to try to listen. I was going to try to ask questions, and I was working to discipline my own self. But I'll make a joke like that because it's true.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that I don't really want to have influence or advocacy for things that are important to me. But I want everybody to know, look, I'm trying to work this all out too. But if you as a leader, though, are making fun of yourself in a way that there's a real open wound there in a way that causes a less of a confidence, like something you haven't really worked through. Like if I was like, yeah, I'm going to lead this meeting, but I'm probably, I talk too much, and I talk to myself all the time, and sometimes nobody really listens to me. Why don't people listen to me? At some point, people are like, there's something wrong with him. Yeah. So you can do the same thing in the wrong way, and if you're, as the field note was saying, if you're talking about flaws that cause people to doubt you, those are not things that necessarily play up. But if they're on display, you can poke fun at them lightly, and it just shows you're working on it.
So I think that I have the tendency to tell a story about an embarrassing situation on myself pretty well. But even in the way that I'm recognizing, I tell that story, I'm controlling the narrative in such a way so that I'm bleeding it out in a way that I'm comfortable with. So when it comes to like improvisationally making fun of myself, like I recognize that I'm starting to become the butt of the joke. Like I'm not good at being able to tag other people's laugh lines about me, right? Like because I'm great at tagging other people's laugh lines. Like if there's a general joke that's going up, I can think of tags left and right.
Right.
But I have a hard time tagging myself, right? I'm still in this mindset of like, don't let him think you're fragile, right?
Right.
And so I'm not sure how to exercise that kind of thing out of me.
Yeah,
And-
I mean, it is a good point, and there's a lot of nuance around that particular frame, which is a little bit different than just saying to a leader, if you're always getting in front of your group and saying, all right, I'm going to throw some ideas out there, but I'm probably wrong a lot, and it comes across like you mean it. Or
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the budget. I never understand these numbers.
Right.
Like if you say I don't understand the budget or the numbers as a recurring self-deprecating joke, people are going to start to believe that you really don't understand the numbers.
Right. Or they're thinking that you're using that as an excuse to not be detail oriented.
Yeah.
Right.
Or actually, this guy's hyper detailed and he's embezzling from the company
Yeah. Right.
in subtle ways that we can't detect.
Right. So, okay. So trust has increased. The other thing that says is comfort, right? And we kind of discussed that with the idea of like the way that a comedian can hold court and create comfort. By just letting them know that we're in control. But the other way that it creates comfort is the idea that if I'm setting the tone that this is a safe place, somewhere in the last 10 years or so, the idea of safe place means we're not ever going to say anything offensive. But I don't think that's the safest of places. I think the safest of places is the place where we are comfortable enough with each other, where we know we can say anything and we still have a trusted relationship.
Yeah, right.
Now, that's not an excuse to be rude. That's not an excuse to, poke at sensitive, but it is the opportunity for us to say like, the safest of places aren't ones where we know where the boundaries are and we're not allowed to say things. The safest of places are when you're with that group of people. You can say anything, anything at all.
Well, it's also probably a marker, and where if you've been cultivating a relationship or a friendship, this could be romantic or dating, but it could just be like real world friendships or business acquaintanceships that are ongoing. That at the point where, and we talked about this, there was a field note that was it's probably a sister to this one because it was about how you tease other people and do you let people tease you, right? Which is a different dynamic than the self-deprecation. But when I get to the place where I'm letting you tease me or I tease you about something, you start to be like, oh, we must actually have a good relationship. And if I get to the point where I'm telling self-deprecating jokes to somebody who hasn't been a lifelong friend, that maybe I've only known for 6 months, I think that's a signal, hey, we're okay.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah, and I know I can think of occasions where maybe I had a connection with somebody that was becoming a friend, maybe a high status person, and when they start doing that little bit of self-deprecation, combined with maybe they're teasing me a little bit, you go, wow, like I feel like this is a good thing. Yeah. So you can use this, and again, I don't know any leader should be like, how can I strategically manipulate my own self-deprecation for the values of world domination by how I can make my team, fall prey to my persuasive whims?
No, if you come up with these jokes ahead of time, it's going to be like calling yourself a skyscraper because you're tall, right? That old dad joke from that previous field note that we...
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay. This is great. It's an indictment. It feels like I'm wrapping this up because I don't want to. I'm trying to figure out how not.
I'm only wrapping it. We're 15 seconds under our normal target deadline of 15 minutes, and I don't want people to think that I talk too long.
Yeah, perfect. All right, with 10 seconds to go, then we'll intentionally say goodbye. Talk tomorrow.
Thank you, Mike.